Okay, we should be live at this point. For the record, the chair and vice chair are absent for this meeting. They're both out of town. So you're going to have to elect a chairperson amongst yourself to serve at this meeting. What I would suggest to you is that nominations be open, that person accept, and then you vote on it, and that'll be the chair for this evening's part of for this meeting only. So if somebody would like to make a motion, feel free.
I'd like to make a motion that Rick Cohen be our temporary chairman.
I'll accept the nomination. So I think it has to go for a vote, right?
It has to go for a vote. Is there any other nominations for the evening? All those in favor?
Aye.
Rick, you're stuck.
All right. So we call the meeting to order, 7:33. Looking for an approval of tonight's agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Moving on to approval of minutes from April 10th and April 19th, 2023.
Mr. Chair, you can take those together or separately, whatever your pleasure is.
I prefer to take those together.
Yes.
Yep. Any corrections? All right, looking for a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on to agenda item 4, the appeal. That is the matter of consideration of a variance for 13153 West 11 Mile Road for a new illuminated sign in a residentially zoned non-conforming property contrary to section 40-10.11, signs, prohibited signs in residential non-TD or BD zone district. Hank?
Yeah,
Over
thank
to
you.
you.
If it's up to you, if it's the pleasure of the chair, we could let them speak first and then I'll go. And then if they have anything that they would like to add, we'll let them go ahead if that's okay with the chair.
Yes, that's fine.
Hi, how you doing? We're here representing for the...
Can you speak up into the microphone, please?
And let us know who you are.
We're Fred Bino and Fred Bino Senior, basically. And we just wanted to, we have 2 signs on the building right now. They're very dilapidated and are not very unappealing. And we wanted to the plan is to remove one of the signs completely and just replace the one on the front with this pretty much the same size with all specs, but just illuminated and new, and to make it look better and, you know, improve the look of the building and make it just nicer and, you know, make the building more appealing, make the area just better in general, you know.
Mr. Chair, if perhaps then I'll go ahead.
Yes,
And then
go
if they
ahead,
want to
Hank.
add something, if that's okay, thank you very much. So basically what we're looking at right now is we're looking at a situation where I have up on the board here the sign that exists. The couple problems that we have with that is, one, obviously that's not the best looking sign, and 2, it's become run afoul of code enforcement as far as the sign being dilapidated. The Bino family has decided that they want to go ahead and instead of trying to repair that, which is really not a high likelihood to succeed, they would like to go ahead and put a new illuminated sign only on the front and not on the side. So the reality is that we're getting an actual reduction in sign size. We're getting a new sign, again, should this be approved, and it's illuminated, which faces only 11 miles, so it does not face any residential district, and it is in the same, and it will project out onto 11 Mile, mounted in the same place in a very similar fashion. Once you have this, and if you go ahead and do that, I furnish you, and I'll show you a couple things here because I want to show you what it is that they have right now. This I'm just going to put up so you know where the corner of Berkeley and 11 Mile is where Armitage is. That's where it's located. The zoning for it is R1E, which is single-family residential, but, you know, it's been there for so long that it certainly, you know, has not overstayed its welcome, but they're trying to put some money into the building. They put some money into the inside of the building, trying to renovate it, and now they're trying to work on the outside. They've cleaned up the outside quite a bit, and this is what they would like to put. So the signage that they're proposing actually meets the requirements for signs. The problem is that you can't have a residential sign, an illuminated sign in a residential district. So what you have here is a legal non-conforming structure. So it's been here, it predates the zoning ordinance, and then when they did it, they noted it all because when 11 Mile, part of the problem was for the houses is those all have, or at least a lot of them have, circular driveways because of 11 Mile. So him being on the corner, he's got no way to identify his business, and if you go back to the first one, that's kind of the problem that he has. So let me go through the criteria for you. The first one is says special or unique circumstances and conditions exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, which are not generally applicable to other land, structures, or building in the same zoning district. What you have here is something completely different because there's nothing else like this. There's nothing else that has a commercial property on a residential lot in Huntington Woods. The business is legal non-conforming. It's been there for years and years. They currently have a dilapidated sign, which was brought to our attention by our code enforcement department. Mr. Bino has applied for a permit for a new sign to rectify the situation, but needs the variance to put it in as it is lighted and in an R1E district. The second criteria, the variance will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the general welfare. The sign faces 11 Mile only and no residential properties. It's commercial across the street in Berkeley, and we've had no adverse communications on this request to date. 3, special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. The property existed as Armitage Collision when Mr. Bino purchased the business and property. The sign issue is somewhat like building components just wearing out, and that happens on a fairly predictable basis. It's like structures are basically forever, but you can bet the components will wear out on a regular basis. Water heaters last 15 years. This sign is obviously past its life expectancy. And 4, a literal interpretation of the provisions of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance, that the variance is the minimum necessary. You may choose to look at whether the circumstances as explained by the applicant warrant some relief. This is completely different from any other property in R1E zoning. It's a pre-existing business, but requires a variance to put the sign up and replace the one that needs to come down. So the real issue with this becomes, this is nothing like what people enjoy in the residential area because this is an outlier. This is one of the reasons that there is a zoning board of appeals. So at this point in time, that's really where we're at with this. I'm certain that the Bino family, both Mr. Binos, would be happy to answer any questions that you might have, as will I. Mr. Chair?
All right, we'll go around for questions from the zoning board. Michael?
There's a house next door, right?
There is a house next door.
In the satellite image you showed earlier, is it connected? Or is there just
No.
like a trailer or something?
No, he's probably got a trailer or something there. He always has something, but let me pull this back up for you. This house over here, this is a gate. You can see where my cursor is. This is a gate here, and this area here is part of this property. Because the gate is here, he actually goes right here and even under his overhang, under the Bino's overhang, and he actually has stuff in here that he shouldn't. And we've had that discussion with him before about placing things next to this building. So that's kind of a different matter, but that is residential. The sign, however, you see where the sign is located up here, that's where the sign is being proposed. The light that comes from this sign or the illumination that comes from the sign won't affect him. So that was one of the other concerns that we had, but that's just not going to happen. The other thing is that the sign has to still conform with our City of Huntington Woods regulations, which means the sign will have to go off at 10 o'clock at night.
So,
Yeah,
You have
hey,
anything?
we'll just go around. Go ahead.
so they're not gonna have a sign on,
On the Berkeley side?
Berkeley side?
That is correct.
You're not gonna leave like what's there? Okay. Gotcha. That's all I got. Just curious.
So Hank, the dimensions you show in the sketch, is that per the codes then?
Yes,
Yeah?
that does comply with the codes. Basically, what happens is that they get an amount of square feet of lettering that's consistent with, like, the front part of their building and the actual frontage that they have. So what we're getting here is we're getting a less total of signage than what's on the building now. We're just, because they're not gonna have anything on the Berkeley side. They're gonna be on the front side of there. And, that's what we're gonna end, but it does meet the code requirements.
So are they still gonna have a sign on the Berkeley's?
No, that's gonna come off the building in its entirety.
Okay.
Just a few questions. Thank you. Hank, are there other businesses in Huntington Woods that have illuminated signs?
Yes.
How many approximately?
Well, Thrifty Flowers has one. Woodward has like their buildings in the TD district, but those are lighted up towards the sign. The same you'll notice for the Salon and the Monarch Coffee.
Those are lighted?
Those are lighted. They're ground lit though.
Okay.
And the other thing is, you know, you have Rite Aid and you have the Chase Banks.
How is it possible to measure how bright this sign illumination is going to be?
They can give you lumens for these. Basically what it is they're gonna have to comply with our ordinance, and our ordinance is, what they have for their sign complies with the ordinance.
Just the fact it's in residential.
They're here primarily, in fact, only because their zoning requirements are, they've got a commercial business in an R1E, and we don't have anything like this business in Huntington Woods at all.
And question to you guys, if you don't mind. Have you, by any chance, talked to the neighbors at all? I heard Hank saying that no one has opposed it, but has there been any outreach, or have you had any contact, particularly the next door neighbor, that everything's okay?
The next door neighbor, I haven't actually, I mentioned that we are planning on getting a new sign, and he was happy. And then
Did you mention that it was illuminated?
I don't remember if I actually said it was illuminated or not. I mean, maybe, but then the neighbor behind, he's a Huntington Woods police officer, the first house right behind us. I told him, I mentioned it to him, he said that'd be nice, you know. But
Did you mention to him that it would be illuminated?
I don't think I did. I think I just said we were planning on getting a new sign.
I,
I'm not sure about if I mentioned illuminated or not.
If I can clarify, it might help out, is that the notice specifically specifies illuminated sign.
For tonight's meeting?
tonight's
Oh, yeah, I
meeting.
get that. I'm sure that
So,
is the case.
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure due process and procedurally we're okay. I'm just wondering whether anyone's going to be surprised when they see a light, kind of, and that's why I asked the question about
Understood.
the brightness of the light and whether we're going to get after the fact concerns.
You know, what's interesting in Huntington Woods, and particularly in Michigan, is that nobody will see this sign until November. You know what I
Because of
mean? Because of our daylight and daylights. So when that comes on and all of a sudden it starts getting dark at 5 o'clock, people will see it. But it has to go off at 10 o'clock anyway. So, I mean, the most you're really looking at where it could, if it did become obtrusive, would be more to the Berkeley side, which also got noticed. Everybody within 300 feet got noticed. And I've had no responses.
Yeah. Just look,
Fair question.
I'm just asking the questions.
Yes.
Fair question.
How bright is the sign going to be in lay terms?
That's a good question. When I contacted the sign company, I told them I really just want a simple sign that says Armitage Collision. It doesn't have to be, I don't want to make it too big, just like, you know, like tasteful and classy, so they're not obtrusive. So that's when they drew the plan up, and I liked it, and then the rest went to hang.
If this helps you out, this is a nighttime sim from the sign company. So that's what it's gonna look like at night.
And these signs don't have dimmers, do they? I mean, such that if we do get complaints,
Well, if we do get complaints, as long as they're not violating any of our light trespass laws, we wouldn't, but this doesn't even face any
yeah.
properties in
Okay.
Huntington
I
Woods.
just trying to be thorough here.
No, and believe me, I appreciate it. And you know, from Berkeley, you know, it's kind of like right where they they put the marijuana place right,
The butter? Is that sign-
Yeah.
is that sign lighted?
so,
Looks
Yeah.
like it.
yeah.
There's gonna be more
It's not
space here.
illuminated
So-
yet, but it's
It will
projecting
be.
from the side of the building.
Yeah, exactly. It comes
So,
like out.
Hank, is the construction of this sign where it has metal or plastic sides that are opaque and then translucent ones in the front, so the light is?
The light is directed towards
It's
the
not
front,
projecting to the
basic, that's
side.
correct. Yeah, that's
So-
exactly correct.
So I have a couple questions as well. So, if we grant this variance, it stays with the property, right? That's why we have to be so careful with everything. we do.
Unless the use changes.
So
Oh.
being that this is like this kind of grandfathered in, non-conforming use, if these guys sell it to Butter someday, right, like what, is that immediately going to kind of reset the sign? Like, what we don't
That's
want is
gonna
like somebody
reset the
buy it
shot clock.
and make some giant illuminated
Yeah.
sign for whatever goes in there now.
No, that's gonna reset the shot clock. You're granting a variance for this sign at this property in this location at this time. And as long as it remains Armitage Collision and the sign remains in good condition and in good shape, then that sign can stay. Until such time as the sign starts to come, or let's say letters go, or some of the letters fall off, or some light and some don't, they don't get fixed for a long time, then we would order the sign down, very similar to what we did that started the whole process with them. And they were very agreeable to come forward, and they wanted to improve their business, so they wanted to light it anyway. So that's kind of what we're looking at, but you're not approving something where the copy of the sign can be changed. You're approving this sign for this business in this location at this time.
I'm gonna vote for it, but I must say I'm a little bit concerned, that there could be some unpleasant surprises that, residents might have because we don't know exactly how bright it's going to be. And this is a one-off, and whenever there is a one-off, there is the opportunity for, people to say this is wrong. At the same time, guys, I think, we all pass by the shop and we see the sign, and I don't know why we should keep you guys in the Stone Age. So this is like improvement. I do worry about the glare. So when I know this is not part of the request and it's not going to be part of a motion, but please, when you're thinking about how illuminated things have to be, will you make sure that it's not like Las Vegas? You know what I'm saying? It's muted to the extent appropriate for the neighborhood.
I totally agree with you, and that's why even when I called the sign company, I expressed to them, I do not want a gaudy, lit up, crazy. I want it to be nice, classy, tasteful, and like simple. And that's like my style anyway. That's what I like anyway. So it worked out good. And really, I don't know if those signs really make that much light.
Yeah, I mean, neither do I. That's why
Yeah.
it's questions in my
I think it's
mind.
mostly contained in the sign, and it makes like very minimal light out. Like it illuminates very little, like out on the,
Well, just please, when you're going through,
Right.
If it makes you feel more comfortable too, there's still a codicil that there would be no sign or no light that could interfere with traffic or safe travel on 11
yeah,
Mile.
I'm more thinking about
So-
bedroom windows, and I'm here you're saying it's going
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, the sign itself is in front of the
Just
house next
please
door.
be sensitive to that when you're making your decisions. I know it's not part of the proposal time.
I'm in 100% agreement with you anyway about that.
Thank you.
Hank, what does the ordinance say specifically to lighting? Do you have that?
For lighting for,
For a lit sign?
illuminated signs are can only be used in a TD or BD zone district, which means business, or TD, which is our transitional district. Our transitional district encompasses Woodward, not including Thrifty Flowers, that's still zone BD, although it would benefit them greatly, and we're looking towards getting them into the TD zone district, to the building that goes just to the north of the BP gas station. That's the transitional district. Our business districts, or our BD districts, would be our Monarch, the hair salon, the Chase Banks, both of them, Huntington Cleaners, Thrifty Flowers, and that would be where that would be. So that's where the only place that they are allowed is in those zone districts. And there was different things too, because if you take a look, and I don't know if you remember, you might actually remember, Rick, but we had Green Gardens that was looking to put a sign, but they wanted a ground mount, side lit sign so that you could see it going up and down 11 Mile. And the neighbors complained and everybody complained about that, primarily because it was a ground mount. Here you have a different thing. It's a flush mount on the building, well, there's some structure behind it, but it faces commercial property in Berkeley. So at the time that this sign becomes most visible, there's nobody there. So that's kind of how that was working for them.
Okay, but there's nothing in the ordinance specific to light output or photometrics?
No, there's the photometric, this, what they've presented us is better than we get most times. I will tell you that, well, actually, you'll see it at the Planning Commission meeting for discussion, a revision to the sign ordinance, but that has to do with a lot of things, including political signs and things like that, and how long they can be up, that type of thing, what you can and can't do. And that one will take a couple meetings to get through the Planning Commission. But it doesn't address this because we had so little need to address this. And the ordinance that we had was fairly comprehensive that we did in section 10-11 or 10.11 from the revision of the Planning Commission zoning ordinance.
Okay, and
It's been looked at pretty good, but
the light has to be turned off at 10, and when can it be on in the morning?
I can't imagine why they would turn it on in the morning, but if they wanted to, the hours would be 9 a.m.
All right, any other questions from the board?
Just one question when you're talking about the illumination.
Yeah.
Is there some kind of criteria that says when it's too much illumination onto the street?
Basically, what's going to happen is if it interferes with any kind of traffic, public safety will let me know, and then at that point, we'll have a discussion with them, and they'll either have to dial down the sign or, go through that. But there's nothing that, this sign is less illuminated than a lot of signs that we have already in the city.
Yeah, looks like there's a natural kind of light block across the street from it. It's the Berkeley Masonic Temple, which is a two-story structure.
Yeah.
Okay, no other questions? We'll open it up for public participation. All right, we'll close public participation. Any other board discussion? All right, we'll look for a motion.
I'll make.
Any specifics to that motion, Hank, or is it just as is?
I'll read it.
Okay.
There's one in the.
Okay,
So I will move to grant the appeal for 13153 West 11 Mile Road, Armitage Collision, to have a new illuminated sign in a residentially zoned non-conforming property contrary to section 40-10.11 signs, comma, paren, E, close paren, prohibited signs in residential non-PD or BD zone district, as it meets the requirements for variance and is generally compatible with the spirit of the ordinance and will do substantial justice to the appellant.
A second?
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Believe that passes.
Such a good draftsman.
All right, Hank.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
At this time, Mr. Chair, I have no other business for you. I do expect that there will be a September zoning board of appeals meeting.
When's the last meeting we had? I'm wondering whether I've missed, I know I missed the one on the 19th of April, but have we not had one for 2 months?
You
For
missed
June and
2
July?
meetings, there was the meetings in April,
Yeah.
and then May there was a meeting that was,
I don't know how I missed it. I mean, I'm sure there's a reason.
it's, right, I mean,
I just feel like it's been a long time.
real life happens, Andy. So other than that, Mr. Chair, I don't have anything further this evening.
Okay, we'll open it up again for public participation. All right, we'll close public participation. Looking for a motion to end the meeting.
Make a motion to close the meeting?
A second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate your help this evening.
Thank you, Hank.
Thank you. When's it gonna go up?
Yeah, good luck.
I'm gonna call the sign people,